Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm Colin Rooney, partner and head of the Technology and Innovation Group in Arthur Cox. I'm delighted to be here today to talk to you with Michael Egan, who's a senior director in our legal technology group within the firm. We're going to talk to you about the various developments in relation to legal technology over the last number of months in particular. With a particular focus on what's happening in relation to generative AI. So welcome, Michael. We might start by talking about some of the things that are happening in the legal technology space. A lot of developments, speed of development, very fast, increasing products and services available to us. Gen AI obviously playing a key role in relation to those products and services. So, what are you seeing on the ground? What are you seeing emerging? What do you think is going to be relevant to our practice and indeed that of our clients over the next number of months?
We're seeing a lot. It's cropping up really everywhere in every product that we have. For today, we've cherry picked some of the ones where we've seen some of the successes.
Yes.
And look, one of the big ones is document review. So that would pop up and down the firm, really. I mean, cyber incident response, DSARs in our own group, a huge amount of DSARs, and discoveries and investigations. So the real benefit to it is, and we've seen this over the past kind of 7 or 8 months, is the speed. It's the speed at which you can get the critical documents and find them. So to put that into context, we had a pretty urgent matter with a tight enough deadline, which is a great one for GenAI, because that's the sweet spot for it, is when your back is to the wall and you don't have time to just go through everything and have it, and do the keywords and go back and forward. You need answers quickly. So we use the GenAI product. So 12,000 documents, to put in context, would take 4 people about 2 weeks to get through, and that'd be just solely reviewing documents. We built the prompt, and now there's absolutely upfront effort in the prompt. I mean, that's got all the legal people, all the feeding into it, absolutely critical. The legal tech team are in it. So there is a bit of a lift in that at the beginning. But equally, if you're mobilizing a tech team or a review team tomorrow, you'd have to brief them and review them. So I think maybe there's slightly a bit more in the prompting, but I think it balances out. But once we did that, and once we ran the sampling, got the prompt spot on, it took about 3 hours to do the full document set, which is absolutely phenomenal versus, as I say, 2 weeks with the team. So, I mean, from a speed perspective, really, really useful. And last week as well, we got a pretty urgent one with a small deadline. We got 1,700 documents. And again, overnight, we were able to put them in and surface the key documents for a deadline. So, no problems on that front. The big piece is the accuracy. That's where the legal judgment comes in, the defensibility comes in. The legal profession still has to stand over the outputs and validate and make sure it's right. And that's where we've been putting a lot of focus, because a lot of people can just turn on the technology, but it's embedding it into the processes where we have to be. That's our responsibility. But once we did run samples with where we put a very junior person on it, and we ran the Gen AI model. And we had, a very senior of-counsel person go through it. And in that particular instance, the accuracy was higher for the Gen AI. So, and that won't be in every case. We did find instances where it missed things, and it got caught in our QC process. So that's working. So, I think that's where we're seeing the biggest impact at the moment. Really, really positive stuff from what we've seen so far.
So we'll tie this down in a moment or two to some of the work that we do between our teams in relation to, for example, maybe compliance work around data protection, GDPR, and the like. But before we get to that point, I mean, this is, as I mentioned, a kind of evolving very quickly. There's a lot of new releases. What kind of things do you think we can expect? I'm not going to ask you to say in the next 5 years, but maybe over the next, say, 2 to 3, maybe leading into 6 months. Like what's on the horizon that we should be thinking about that's going to play in terms of the work we do, that are things that are enhancements, if you like, to the tools that already exist.
So I mean, as I said, there's a huge amount happening, and I think the way to look at it is the next 2-3 months. The big things that are coming really is anything that's going to help with early insight. So When we're typically called into action, there's just a huge amount of documents.
Yes.
There's lots of
Yes.
emails, Teams messages. Our whole forensic team goes
Huge
off. They do
volumes
that
of
literally.
material. Yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
massive. So, I mean, the challenge is it can take a week or two for our legal teams to go back and forward with our clients, understand what's in the data set, do interviews,
Yeah, of
and
course.
so on, right? Where the Gen AI is going to be inserted in here is Fairly Insight. So it's going to be almost like a chat experience.
Yeah.
You'll put in the data into our secure environment here in the firm. Our tech team will set all that up, and then our lawyers are going to be able to go in and ask questions, a bit like you would on, you know, any of the LLM models that are out there at the moment. So you could say,
Yeah.
who are the key people? What emails are you seeing? What
Yeah.
dates are, and that's going to feed back information to our team. So if we have millions of documents and we're going off and we're trying to establish keywords kind of blindly a little bit at
Yeah.
the moment, like
Yeah.
they're informed, but we'll be able to enhance those and make them far better to be able to target
Yeah,
the data and
course.
find. So we'll be able to go back to our clients, get that targeting much better. So we've played around with some of the early models, excited about that. There is a limitation I have found with the platforms at the moment. They can only take maybe 10 or 20,000 documents to
Yeah.
do it. So
Yeah.
you know, the type is, we get terabytes in here, so
Yeah.
we could have 200,000 or 300,000 documents, but we've managed to find workflows within our other tech stack to do it.
Of course.
You know, I'm really looking forward to when you can cast that over the full net, and that's going to be really, really powerful.
I mean,
Yeah.
one of the most exciting things that we've done over the last while is the collaboration that we've had in terms of looking at things that we've been doing, work that we do on a very frequent basis, like, for example, data protection impact assessments or data subject access requests. And I think trying to see how we apply the technology to those processes, which are often document intensive, they're time intensive. They can be large volumes of material. They can be complex in the sense that they're not necessarily litigation, but they can look a little bit like mini discoveries, or in the case of the impact assessment, it can look very much like a detailed analysis that needs to be undertaken with lots of different inputs. And I'm take your point entirely in terms of there are some limitations at the moment. Like, we talk a lot about redaction. Sometimes the challenges around redaction, and the technology is not. You can see it's moving in that direction, but it's not quite there yet. But I mean, one of the projects that we have had, I think, a lot of success with so far is the data protection impact assessment, which, just for those who are not aware, is a requirement in certain circumstances where you're rolling out a new solution or a new service that you need to do an analysis in terms of the impact on an individual's privacy, the use of their personal data and how that's managed. And we've used some of the intellectual property that we have within the firm, the expertise that we've built up over a long period of time, mixed in with the expertise that yourself, Michael, and your team bring I think to work up a compelling solution in relation to this. Do you want to elaborate a little on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's we've been working for quite some time on this one, and as you said, look, it's GenAI is a team sport, and what I mean by that is, you need your knowledge lawyers who, you know, they're constantly tracking the legislation. You need, obviously, our lawyers who, you know, are using that. They have the commercial acumen. They have everything that, you know, and they're very close to the client on it. You need the technical team, which, you know, we have in our practice group as well, a really good tech team to design the workflow. And then you need the product itself. So you need to bring all of that together. So that's what we've been doing.
Yeah.
And that's easier said than done.
Yeah.
And yes, the DPIAs, we've a solution at the moment that captures all of those skill sets working together, and it's going to be bespoke to our clients. And look, where, as you said, DPIAs arise is when there's a high risk to people's personal data. You can keep me honest on this. And it's often brought out when there's a new tech product being brought out, and there might be tracking or profiling or sensitive data, or when some of our clients putting in CCTV, they have to do it. So these are a statutory requirement, so they have to be done. Our conversations with our DPOs, our clients, DPOs out and our clients, are telling us that, you know, they do have a lot of GDPR requirements. And this is one of the ones that they're saying is very time intensive, because a DPIA, although the DPO signs off on it, I understand it has to go around different parts of the business.
Correct.
There's policy documents. There's a lot goes into it, and people start with a blank page every time, and it just takes a lot of time. I think the other thing we're hearing is it's quite expensive. Like, it can be expensive to get someone to do it from scratch, or even asking a law firm to do it from scratch. So we've taken all of that on board. and we've looked at the whole process, and we've looked at the documents that we would typically use, like the DPC guidance. We've looked at the legislation, worked really closely in house to pull all that together, and all of our IP, our precedent documents as well. And that was a really big lift, and we credit to the team for that. And on top of that, then we designed it so it can take in our clients' documents, their policy documents. Like there's various things that you can put in there, and that's case specific, I would say. And we've it set up now that we're able to, if they're running a DPIA, they're able to give us the structured information that we need. We've designed a very structured form to capture what we need, quality inputs, for quality outputs. And we're putting in, and the results are phenomenal. Just the time savings, like that could take days. I mean, internally, if a client is to do it, it could take weeks because you have to wait to go around the houses and people are busy. But once we now put it into our GenAI platform, we're able to do the DPA within minutes, and then it's into our, obviously the human is in the loop still. Our lawyers then are able to take it from there. But what we're seeing, and I understand the feedback from the associates, is that they only need to make minor refinements to get it to where it needs to be. So it's a really, really exciting product.
Yeah, no, it's been a very interesting process. I mean, I think it talks to a couple of points that we touched on at the beginning of the discussion. Certainly the value in terms of working to establish a process, following that process, making sure you work with individuals who can leverage the technology, have experience and are comfortable with the technology, at the same time making sure that you have very good inputs, which I think is the benefit of the sort of the expertise that we have within our team. And of course that oversight as well, that there's an extremely important role for associates and lawyers to play in relation to the material that's per the output for the client. But what we have, I think, is a solution which looks at the process, has very good inputs, and produces a very strong, robust output, factoring in, other DPIAs, but also factoring in guidance and case law on other material, which is relevant in terms of that process. And I think the thing that certainly struck me in terms of this collaboration, and I know you've been doing with other senior lawyers in our firm, working closely with Rob Corbett, for example. One of the things that I've noticed is that this will lend itself very neatly, I think, to things like data breach processes, where it can be a very similar process time and time again. The subject matter can be different, but the nature of what we're doing and how we're doing can be, to a certain extent, can be similar across matters. And I think this is the sort of expertise which we can really leverage for the benefit of our clients.
And to add, and look, I mean, it's the real beauty of it is it's scalable.
Yeah.
This is all the key messages here. This is a repeatable process. People typically do from scratch.
Yeah.
And this is very scalable, and it can be customized. And once you do the upfront lift, you can tap into that every time. And I mean, the other big thing as well is it's going to be privileged, because as we say, we always, the end product goes through our legal team.
Of course, so, really important.
Yeah, so we're capturing all
it's a vital consideration, the privilege piece,
I think.
it
is, and we need to capture all the core fundamentals by bringing in the new. So I mean, and we're moving on now to things like LAAs and other areas, like that's not in the not so distant future, that'll be released too. So we've other products in the mix.
So we've talked, Michael, a lot about sort of the importance of the accuracy and the importance of consistency and the various different inputs. Just maybe want to close out by saying these are really powerful tools. They're going to be transformative, but there are some challenges that we should be aware of, and that I think the client should be cognizant of, particularly in the early days of adoption.
Yeah, look, the big challenges really are embedding it into the process.
Yeah,
I am envious of the legal tech vendors, because they come out with the products, and there's a lot of hype around it, but ultimately we have to embed it into the processes for our clients. The regulations are catching up, the regulators are catching up, the other side are catching up, and there are rules of engagement that you need to abide by.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it's our lawyers and our tech team that are going to bring this to life, but they have to be able to do it so you can stand over it. So I think for me, that is the biggest challenge with GenAI. But if you approach it and you take your time and you're sensible about it, you can use it.
Thanks, Michael. I think that's a great point, and a good place for us to pause for now. So thank you very much for taking the time to listen to us. I hope you found that to be informative. And if you'd like to get in touch, please contact us. You have our contact details. We're also available at artercox.com/technology.